What's going on, people? So, where is it? There it is, side of the box and whatnot. Give you some kind of idea of what we're about to talk about, or at least what I'm about to talk about, what you're about to skip through to get to the part that you actually care about. That's how these things play out. I get it, right? I get it. But anyway, so let's jump into this, huh? This right here. This is the Brooks Hyperion Max 2 in the Crystal Seas and Diva Pink colorway. When they slipped that Diva Pink thing in there at the end, kind of made me question some decisions I was making. I'm like, is this really for me? I don't really consider myself a diva of any sort, right? Real quick sidebar on that. Anybody ever listen to the Are We Not Men, We Are Diva, or whatever it was, Me First in the Gimme Gimmes album? I was listening to that the other day. I'll revisit it every couple months. It's like super solid, dude. Anyways, review. Let's go ahead and knock this thing out, huh? We're going to start with the bottom. Down there, what are you looking at? Well, a lot of stuff is going on, kind of, sort of, right? A lot of colors. It looks pretty cool, so I'll give it that, right? Otherwise, for the most part, it's a lot of the same things you would kind of expect. However, there are some details to hit real quick. So, one thing you might have noticed, down there in the middle, there's like this little pink section or whatever. It says Speed Vault on it. So, that is a plate. This is a plated shoe. I don't know if I knew that before this morning, honestly. So it's not going to be like a carbon plate like some of the other things I've talked about recently, the Magic Speed 4s. It's some kind of nylon plastic sort of material, something else. It was like some long science words and I was like, plastic. That's what I'm taking from this. So yeah, it is plated. That's what's going on down there. Let's move on to the midsole though. So the midsole, right? It's got a nice little grading action going on in there, which I'm a big fan of. I was talking about that when I did the Luxe reviews. Also, one thing you might be noticing is that it does have like a sort of a rocker shape. They call that the rapid roll on this particular one, right? They have that same sort of thing, and you'll see it again on these, but they call it glide roll on those. But the rapid roll kind of plays into the whole plate situation to give you that whole spring forward thing, you know? So there you go. That's what's going on with the midsole, right? And of course, a little bit of branding on the back end saying Hyperion Max. So there is that. And real quick before we go further, right, because I just remembered, taking a look at the inside here of the midsole again, super plain, not a whole lot of design on that piece, right, but it does have a little bit of text down in there talking about the whole DNA flash thing. So this is like one of those nitrogen infused shoes, right, so they take the foam, inject it with some nitrogen and whatever else, I think like heat and water or something to like actually form it or whatever, and then it becomes better, right? Same buzzwords as everybody always talks about. Oh, it's going to be lighter, it's going to be more responsive, it's going to be better. It's just all that normal stuff, just improved over the previous year. So that's what's happening all down here. All right, moving on past that. I'll give you some shots or whatever so you can kind of see what all else might be going on here. It's nice blue, I'll give it that. You know, stitching looks kind of cool and all of that stuff, right? So this is one of those shoes where slipping these extra pictures in there is kind of a nice thing to do, I guess, because there's actually something to look at. I don't know how the other colorways might play into like the stitching, but I would imagine there's a lot of potential to make these look pretty cool. But I saw this one and I thought, well, that's the one that I want. And I didn't really look much further. So anyways, past all that stuff, I'm not going to go deep into this because there's not a whole lot of reason to, but it is just like your typical mesh that's going on here, right? They do tout the breathability of these, and I can definitely say like it does seem quite thin and breathable from when I was walking around in these, checking the sizing earlier, so that's a thumbs up in my opinion. A little bit of branding on the outside, right, because that's a thing that you often do. But when you switch over to the inside, I'm usually not a whole big fan of like the big branding thing, but something about this blurry Brooks thing just kind of works for me. I just kind of think that it's pretty alright. So there's going to be that. Jumping over back to the front piece, like laces wise, right? One thing that I noticed with the laces, they have these little grooves on them, or dots, or raised bumps, whatever you want to call it. It looks like it's got some sort of sickness, honestly. But either way, that, I'm guessing, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it does seem like it could be a design to kind of help stop the laces from slipping through like the lace holes, you know? Or maybe it just looks cool and feels decent, right? I don't know. I don't know what Brooks was doing, but that's just what I took from it. But either way, that's what the laces are doing. And then behind that, tongue-wise, super thin, kind of reminds me of like the Ultra Boost, say the 1920 type era, right? As far as the way the tongue is built, and then a little bit of branding going down that thing, right? So there you go. And as often is the case with shoes like this, the tongue is stitched down onto the inside of the shoe, down at the bottom and whatnot, keeps it from slipping around on you. Interior wise, Brooks, yeah, basically that's what's going on down there. Back end wise, it's feeling pretty soft, so if you happen to wear those low cut type socks and whatnot, I feel like the back of your ankles and stuff will be okay, so that's pretty nice. Also, while we're back there, I do like the way they did this design. Kind of gives you that ability to just kind of like slip right into the shoe and whatnot. No pull tab on here, but having that sort of opening, that slip and slide style, just kind of makes sense. So there's gonna be that. I think that's all the visual and whatnot. I didn't see any 3M on these. You know, I mentioned that now. It's a thing that I like to see, but wasn't there, so whatever. Doesn't much matter. So I'm gonna move on, hit you with some personal thoughts and whatnot as far as these things go, and then that will be the end of that. We'll move on to the sizing. Personally, I think that these are pretty alright. Now, I picked up the Hyperion because when I did the Brooks like online shoe finder thing, answer some questions, it told me, okay, you probably want the Hyperion 2. The Hyperion Max 2 is also something to consider, because I wanted something that was going to be kind of a race shoe, you know, like lightweight, fast, that sort of thing. Not so much on the cushion, didn't really matter a lot to me. And this right here, I feel like it's a pretty good suggestion from them, right? I mean, obviously it's just, do you want cushion or do you want speed? And then you just kind of like have this huge fork in the road, not a lot of middle ground. But honestly though, past all that, I think that these are going to work out pretty well. I like the way they look too, right? Which is a good thing, because sometimes you see stuff that looks like it will get the job done, but doesn't look all that great. This, because of like, I mean, it's got like the big thick midsole and all that good stuff, but the design makes it not look so crazy, so that's kind of cool, right? But all in all, looking at these, once I took them out of the box, I was cool with it. I'm looking forward to like actually breaking these things out, seeing how they actually do in some real world testing. But for right now, I'm feeling pretty good, feeling pretty strong about this, feeling rather confident that I'm gonna like these things. So we'll find out in a few weeks how that whole thing works out. Real quick, one thing to bring in, I try to bring up the little statistics and whatnot, right? So spec wise or whatever, as far as weights and such, these, they do have a 6mm drop. It's going to be 39 in the back, I believe, as far as like height goes. And then, so I guess that'd be what, 33 in the front, right? Simple math, you know? So they sit high-ish, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Depends on your standards or whatever. Actually, no. Let me take that back. Let's see. Yeah, because these are like 45. So yeah, these are 36. Excuse me. These are 36 in the back. 36, 30. I had the numbers in my head, but for some reason I set them out all wrong. 36, 30, 6mm drop all across. Cool? Final answer. That's what I'm sticking with, because that's what I remember reading. So there's that. So it's, you know, it's kind of up there, maybe depending on what you're used to. But I will tell you this right now. These things over here, these are 45. And that is just insane. Same 6mm across the back to the front. These with a 39 in the front. But man, like that, it's a lot. More on that later. Weight wise, these were the Nova Blast weights, so that puts them at 9 ounces, just over 9. It said 9.1 for a size 9. This is a 9.5, so it's probably fairly close compared to these bad boys over here being like a 10.5 ounce wise. So there's that. I bring that up because some people are into that stuff. It matters to them, the heel drop thing. Some people like it to be a little steeper. Some people like it to be a little more level. It's kind of just a personal thing, right? Some have said like it bothers their knees. Some say it makes them feel faster. So you just got to try out a few things and just kind of see where your body is. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, past that, let's do some sizing and be done with this. I bought these in a 9.5 because I tend to buy everything in a 9.5. That's my foot size. It just often works, right? And in this case, I got no complaints. Everything's working out exactly how I thought it would. The dimensions of the shoe are perfectly fine for me, right? Got just a little bit of room in the front, right? Because you do want a little bit. You don't want your foot to be like right there. Same goes with like the left to right, like the width wise. So if you feel like you have larger feet and whatnot, you might want to go ahead and try these on first. But at least for me, they're working out all right. As far as the fitting of the upper goes, like I mentioned before, they do kind of remind me of the Ultra Boost 19 and Ultra Boost 20 type era as far as like the way the knitting is. just kind of like hugs you a little bit more snug than say these other things that I'm going to be talking about in a second here. So that kind of plays into like the sizing and whatnot. But again, true to size worked out for me. I'm sure it'll work out for a lot of people, just not all the people, right? But luckily these are not hard to find. If you go to running shoe stores, you'll find a lot of these, I would imagine. Anyways, now as far as like walking around in these though, as soon as I took those first steps, one of my first thoughts was, this is one of those running shoes that I do not want to walk around in, right? Because it, you know, the plated thing, it doesn't feel as bad as like the Magic Speed 4s or the Kensei Maxes, but it is a thing you notice. So that's why I say like I would probably just rather keep these for the race day, right? And even if you go by what these are made for, according to the websites and all that stuff, like the Brooks one specifically, this is a race day training shoe, right? So it's not made for walking around. Even the side of the box just says run, as opposed to the other box that you'll see over here that says running and walking. So yeah, I just bring that up to let you know. It's a solid racing type shoe from what it seems, but comfort-wise, other than that, I don't know about that. It's not uncomfortable. It feels like it'll work out well as far as just how it felt under the foot, but I think everybody can kind of expect that. I'm just saying, I think that's important to know that if you put something like this on sometimes in a store and you're walking around and you're like, oh, I don't like the way this is going to feel, it might be because it's not made for what you're doing, which is walking and standing. I think that's fair. So anyways, there's that. I've covered everything I wanted to cover. So from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, wherever you are. There is one more thing I meant to say, but I feel like this will be heard by 6 people at most. If you happen to have any suggestions for Brooks slides, let me know, right? There's a comment section. There's a couple other ways to contact me. Let me know, because now that I have a handful of Brooks clothes and whatnot, I like to wear Brooks, I would like to wear Brooks slides, because when I'm indoors, that's the thing that I do. I don't wear the shoes inside. Right now I'm wearing some New Balance ones in case anybody's curious, but whatever. So that's just a thing. I haven't looked for myself just yet, but I like to hear what the people have to say once in a while. Later, people.